Daniel 9:25. Know therefore and understand that from the going out of the word to restore and build Jerusalem, to the coming of an anointed one, a prince, there shall be 7 weeks. Then for 62 weeks it shall be built again with squares and moat, but in troubled time. Then after the 62 weeks the Messiah will be cut off and have nothing. Why the 62 weeks? Because we are to understand that the 62 weeks follows that there will be 7 weeks and 62 weeks, and we are to know to add them together. Given that we now know from history that these are 7 plus 62 weeks of years, we can know that that period is 69 weeks, or 69 times 7 weeks of years, or a total of 483 years until Messiah is cut off, speaking of the crucifixion of Jesus. The people of the prince who is to come will destroy the city and the sanctuary. There are 2 princes in Daniel's account. One of them is Jesus the Messiah, who is cut off, and the other is the prince who is to come. The prince who is to come is Antichrist, and the people of the prince to come are the opponents of God in all ages, and first recognized in 70 AD when the Roman general Titus leveled the temple. He will make a firm covenant with many for 1 week. The prince who is to come ultimately turns out to be Antichrist, who will sign a peace treaty to protect Israel as the tribulation period begins. But in the middle of the week, he will put a stop to sacrifice and grain offering. 42 months into the 7-year period, which is exactly halfway, Antichrist will break the covenant with Israel and demand to be worshipped himself. We will cover the tribulation period verse by verse when we study the book, The Revelation of Jesus Christ. The scriptures tell us that after 69 weeks, Messiah would be cut off, and we are also told that when week number 70 begins, that the city would be destroyed, and that great trouble would come upon Israel. However, what was not clear then was that between weeks number 69 and number 70, the countdown to the physical return of Jesus will be put on hold. There would be an indefinite pause. That pause, that holding period, is the space of time that we live in. It is a parenthesis called the church age. On the next slide, we will do a quick overview of where the church age is chronologically and the events that will follow it. This is a chart, reading from left to right, starts here in the present age, which is the church age. This is where we live now. The next thing on the prophetic timetable is the rapture of the church. That's when Jesus comes back in the air to call all the saved of all time to go back to heaven with him. Right after that, we have the years of tribulation, 7 years of tribulation. Many people divide it into 2 parts, first half and the second half. 3.5 years is exactly half of 7. This is also 42 months, half of 7 years. In this period of time, there's a lot of cleanup necessary because when you extract, say, 1 billion people from the earth in the rapture of the church, there's a lot of chaos left behind. In this period of time, the world will regroup. They'll come together under one world ruler who will eventually be called the Beast and the Antichrist. And in this period of time, judgment begins on the people. It's in the second half of the Great Tribulation when many of the judgments of God are poured out, where God is dealing with the world at that time and sin in general. This is marked in the middle by the desecration of the temple. So in the beginning here, the Antichrist allows the Jews to offer sacrifices to Jehovah again. It's like they're living in a time when they've never experienced before, when the world is at peace. Halfway in, Antichrist goes into the temple, says, okay, no more offering sacrifices to Jehovah. You'll offer sacrifices to me and you'll worship me. And then, after that 7 years is up, we have the return of Christ. This is now not when Jesus just comes back in the air. He comes back to the earth to set up his 1,000-year reign, his millennial kingdom, where he'll reign and rule in this period of time. At the end of that, we have the final judgment. This is when the unsaved dead of all time appear before Jesus, sitting on the white throne, and they will be evaluated, judged based upon their works, that's justice, and cast into the lake of fire. After that, then, is the eternal state. The signs of Jesus' second coming, the time when Jesus will return to the earth and set up his 1,000-year kingdom, also known as the millennial kingdom. Matthew 24:3, as he sat on the Mount of Olives, the disciples came to him privately, saying, "Tell us, when will these things be, and what will be the sign of your coming and of the end of the age?" And Jesus answered and said to them, "See to it that no one misleads you, for many will come in my name, saying, 'I am the Christ,' and will mislead many. You will be hearing of wars and rumors of wars. See that you are not frightened, for those things must take place, but that is not yet the end. For nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and in various places there will be famines and earthquakes. But all these things are merely the beginning of birth pangs. Then they will deliver you to tribulation, and will kill you, and you will be hated of all nations for my name's sake. At that time many will fall away and will betray one another and hate one another. Many false prophets will arise and will mislead many. Because lawlessness is increased, most people's love will grow cold. But the one who endures to the end, he will be saved. This gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in the whole world as a testimony to all the nations, and then the end will come. 3 questions are asked. When will these things be? What are the signs of his coming? And when will the world end? The disciples knew that Jesus was speaking of future things and asked the logical questions that we would all want to know. Jesus provides an answer that goes on for 2 chapters, which is very un-Jesus-like in many respects, for he was the master of the short, truthful, pithy retort. His answer needs to be seen as addressing that which the disciples could not have known, that his second coming would be in 2 stages. First in the air at the rapture, and then 7 years later to earth. While all that Jesus says in reply is true, it is frequently misunderstood. Points to ponder. There are 2 princes in Daniel's account. One of them is Jesus the Messiah, who is cut off, and the other is the prince who is to come, that would be Antichrist. The prince who is to come is Antichrist. Between weeks number 69 and 70, the countdown to the Great Tribulation is put on hold for an indefinite period of time. That's the period of time that we live in today. This class, and indeed the entire school, is dedicated to helping others see that God is bigger than we think and better than we know. To get to the next video, make a note of the class number for this recording, then search for the next one. Here's a sample. If this video is number L01.1, then the next one is L01.2. And remember to like and subscribe on YouTube and follow on Rumble.